always there for you. ZakPak, only on YouTube. ZakPak, what will he do next? ZakPak, let's find out, 'cause it's on with the show.
Hey guys, Zach here, coming at you with another video. So today is going to be a decent video. I've actually collabed with some other YouTubers, which you'll see later in the video, and we are all going to talk about what we love about my favorite system of all time, the Nintendo GameCube. Now I'm going to talk about my history with the GameCube, and I'm also going to mention some of my favorite games, and talk about, like I said, what I love about the system. Now, technically, this wasn't the best console in the market. It was definitely on the lower end. Xbox had online, PS2, there's so many games, and you can play DVDs. It was that all-around system. The GameCube was just the best system for my personal interest and my personal likes. For example, I love Mario games. I still love Mario games to this day, but when I was a child, they were the only games that I played, basically. Mario Party 6, they were the games I played. My Game Boy Advance, I would literally, one of the only games I would play on my Game Boy Advance, actually, a few of them, Mario Golf Advance Tour, Mario Party Advance, actually, hold on, I have all of them complete in box. When I was younger, these were the 4 games I played right here. This is my childhood you are looking at. I always talk about the original Xbox being my first game system that I played, which it is. But the Game Boy Advance is the one that I kind of grew up on, and I loved these games. But we're not talking about the Game Boy Advance today. I actually might even talk about it in another video, but we're not talking about the Game Boy Advance today. We're talking about the GameCube. Now, where did I put my GameCube? It's over here! Talking about the GameCube. So, obviously, since I love Mario games so much, I had a Game Boy Advance long before I had a GameCube. I got my GameCube, actually, towards the end of its life. I got a GameCube in 2007. So I actually got my GameCube when the Wii came out. So I was a whole generation behind. But honestly, yes, I could have got a Wii and played GameCube games on it, but I was much more interested in the GameCube, just having the GameCube. Simply because, I played it at my mom's ex-boyfriend's son's house, so I guess my old stepbrother of sorts. And, ever since I played it, my first game that I ever played on the Nintendo GameCube was with my old stepbrother, quote-unquote, and that was Mario Party 6. That was the first game on the GameCube that I ever played. It was such a fun game to me. That's why this is my favorite Mario Party, because it's the first one I ever played. Obviously, I must have played, this came out in 2004, so I must have played it in, 2004, 2005, because I think this was the newest Mario Party at the time. And, it was just so amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I had so much fun that, when I moved, out of, when my mom and her boyfriend broke up and I moved out and I couldn't play it anymore, I wanted my own GameCube so that I could play this game. And, I don't think I have my, original GameCube. I still have it, but I don't think it's in this room right now. I think it's packed away. But when I got my original GameCube, the 2 games I got with it were Mario Party 6 and, you guessed it, Luigi's Mansion. These were the first 2 games that I got with my system back in the day. Not these 2 exact games, but these 2 games, if that makes sense. So that's why these 2 games are my personal favorite games on the GameCube, because they were the first ones I ever got in, and they introduced me to the GameCube. And to this day, I will still play these both religiously. These actually, I would say these are the only 2 games that I have played more than 10 times. Maybe besides the other game I'm going to show you. But these 2 games in particular, they defined my GameCube experience. And, this was my multiplayer one, and this was my single player one. I love, words can't describe how much I love both of these games. I would play Luigi's Mansion over Super Mario Sunshine. I would play Luigi's Mansion over The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker or Twilight Princess. Why? Mainly because of the nostalgia, but there's something about this game that I just love, which is why Luigi's Mansion 2 disappointed me so much. If you haven't seen that video, go check out my review. But, yeah, just such amazing games these 2 are. And the next game I'm going to show you, it isn't a GameCube exclusive, but I love playing on the GameCube the most. And that is SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. This is my favorite 3D platformer. Hands down. Hands down my favorite 3D platformer. Close with Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie, I think, is like right below this game. Mainly because I just think this game has a lot more variety in the type of gameplay. The Banjo-Kazooie, personally. But nevertheless, I absolutely love this game still to this day. Yes, it's a kid's game, but to this day, I still love this game. And so many people like this game. It's one of those games where it's like, if you haven't played it, then you probably would underestimate it. It's one of those games where it's like, you have to play it to love it. Like, the controls are fluid, and everything is great. And that leads me to my next point. This game is an excellent example as to why I absolutely love the Nintendo GameCube controller. Now, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom and Luigi's Mansion, I would say both use the GameCube controller. Well, more so Luigi's Mansion uses the GameCube controller really well because of this little guy down here. Luigi's Mansion uses this as like a pull. You pull it against it when you pull this in the opposite direction of the ghosts, the way they're pulling you, and it just feels so natural. And to hold it, it just feels so natural. That's why I'm not a huge fan of PlayStation controllers because the both thumbsticks are at the bottom. So it's really weird for me to even think about holding it like that because I got so used to a GameCube controller and holding it like this. The GameCube controller is my favorite controller of all time. It really is. Obviously the Wavebird I like better because it's wireless. I think the battery life on it is friggin' beast. Like my Xbox 360 controller dies in a couple days when I play it, but my Wavebird, I haven't had to change the batteries yet, and I've had it for 3 years. Now, granted, I haven't had it for a year or two or something like that, but still a year full through using that controller whenever I play the GameCube, that's pretty damn good. Then I have to change the batteries once. It's an amazing controller. The GameCube controller, you can't argue, it's an amazing controller. I think it's actually a universal thing now that the GameCube controller is one of the best. I've heard so many people say it, that the GameCube controller is the best. But, to keep this video from being overly long, I'm going to stop blabbing, and I'm going to let other YouTubers tell their personal opinions. Do they like a lot of the GameCube games? Do they think the GameCube is a great console? Do they like the GameCube controller? Well, let's go over to them and find out.
Hey everyone, my name is Corey, aka C-Stove, here on YouTube. I always feel dumb saying aka, but I appreciate Zak letting me in this video talking about the amazing GameCube. I've always loved the GameCube. I didn't have one myself whenever it was actually current though. I had a PS2. My friend though, my best friend, I used to go to his house all the time, he had a GameCube, and we stayed on that thing the entire time I was over there. The game we played the most was Animal Crossing. We both created our own saves and, did all our stuff, and we'd switch off, and that was some of the best moments of my gaming life, is playing that. We also played 13. I don't know if you guys have played that. It's Roman numeral X and 3 ones, it's like a comic book first-person shooter. That game was really fun. It's also on PS2 though, so it doesn't really count as a GameCube exclusive or anything, but we stayed on that game too. I actually didn't get my first dose of my own GameCube games until I got a Wii. Then I started buying up GameCube games. They were cheap at that time. And the first one I got was The Wind Waker. This is my all-time favorite GameCube game. One of my favorite games of all time, actually. This game is just amazing. And then the next game that I dove into, because I had a GameCube, was Tales of Symphonia. If you've not played the Tales series, definitely do so. This used to be a GameCube exclusive, except for like in Japan, it was on PS2. Then, I had to bring up Zak's favorite game, Luigi's Mansion. Played this as a Halloween game one year, loved it, really underrated game. And perhaps the GameCube is home to what I consider to be maybe the most underrated game of all time. And I know that's a big thing to say, but I really believe so. Star Fox Adventures. It may just be the Zelda lover in me that likes this game so much, but this game gets a lot of hate, and I absolutely love it. It's in my top 5 games of all time. It's just really weird how much hate this game gets. But aside from the games, the GameCube controller is also amazing. I think a lot of people like the controller now, but at the time I remember some people complaining about it because it's kind of weird shaped. But man, I love the GameCube controller. That is an underrated controller. But yeah, aside from that, I have a lot more GameCube games I need to beat. I need to get into Metroid Prime and Pikmin, you know, all the goodies like that.
Hey guys, Papa Pete here. Zach asked me to come on today and talk a little bit about the GameCube. I'm going to be quite honest with you, I didn't have a GameCube back in the day. I had bought a system that you might be familiar with. I don't know what it could possibly have been. But anyway, the GameCube really is a phenomenal system. I can remember coming out in the day, even though I didn't own one then. I bought one a few years ago now, and I've been collecting games over the last 3 or 4 years for it. But back at the time, I can remember one thing that was so sort of unique about it when it came out. And that was the fact that it had these proprietary mini DVDs for their games. Now, Nintendo was the last holdout with the cartridges, but cartridges had some limits. Cartridges had a limit in storage, and they were quite expensive to produce. With the games of the age getting more and more advanced with higher tech music, more full motion video, the cartridges just became really unusable. So Nintendo finally broke down and went to optical discs like all the other companies already had. Now, the reason that Nintendo came out with these proprietary mini DVDs that were specially designed so only the GameCube console could read them. You can't read this with your own DVD drive. Even though they did come out with mini DVDs that you could use like that later on, these ones you couldn't. Anyway, the reason they did this, the main reason I say they did this, is for piracy. Because all the companies, once they went to optical discs like this, they started having problems with piracy. PlayStation was the first one. You used to be able to burn PlayStation discs with a mod to your console. And then the Dreamcast itself, when it came out, it took them a little while, but really you could download, you could burn your own Dreamcast games, and Nintendo wanted to avoid that problem. Anyway, when they did bring out the GameCube after the Nintendo 64, they carried on with a lot of the series that were Nintendo is known most of all for. And they certainly didn't disappoint. For example, Metroid is a game that is just phenomenal on the NES. And Metroid Prime on the GameCube is probably the next best in the series. I'll tell you, even some of the ones that are out afterwards on the Wii and on the Wii U, they just pale in comparison to Metroid Prime. What a great game. Now, of course, when people talk about Nintendo, who's the person that you remember first and foremost or think of? It's Mario. And there were some great Mario games on the GameCube as well. Super Mario Sunshine, Paper Mario, just to name a couple. These are great games, platformers, but you know, when I think of Mario, I'm a little different. My favorite Mario games of all time are the Mario Kart games. And let me tell you, Mario Kart Double Dash does not disappoint. Mind you, I have liked all of the Mario Kart games. I loved the original one on the SNES, the Mario Kart 64, here on the GameCube. I loved it on the Wii, loved it on the Wii U, and the Switch. Haven't played it on the Switch yet. I haven't got it yet, but you know what? I'm going to. What a great game. The Mario Kart, to me, is one of the absolute best series, and it does not disappoint on the GameCube. Now, when you think of series that are proprietary to Nintendo, one of the biggest ones ever is Zelda. And listen, Zelda was very well represented on the GameCube. I've got a couple of them here. I got Twilight Princess, and I've got Four Swords Adventures. Great games on the GameCube. You can only get them on the GameCube. They're just great for your collection. They're a lot of fun to play. Now, Zach, you might get a little upset with me on this one, but I picked this game up this summer at a yard sale for $1. $1. The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. I was so lucky to find this. Now, if you're not familiar with this was a pack-in game, and it's not all that common, and it's worth quite a bit of money now. Not exorbitant amount, but $40-50 you can get quite easily for it. I got it for $1. But it includes the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2 Link's Awakening, as well as Majora's Mask and the Ocarina of Time. So, what a great thing to pick up. What a great thing to have in your collection to put in and play. There's a lot of gameplay right here in that little mini DVD. Anyway, guys, that's about all I had for you today. Thanks a lot, Zach, for asking me to come out and do a little video for you. I had a lot of fun, and I hope to see you again sometime in the future. Take care, guys.
First of all, thanks ZakPak for having your old buddy Dan from the Rebel Gaming Club on your channel to talk about one of his favorite systems, the GameCube. Behind me sits a complete GameCube collection, so I know a few things about the system. If you're asking me what do I love about the system, number one is the controller. This thing is perfect. The way it sits in your hand, these bumpers. Say I'm playing Mario Kart Double Dash. I'm going around a quarter. I hit that. You hear that click? I love that sound. I love the feel of it. I love the contour of it with your finger that goes right into it. It's a wonderful controller. That probably is my number one favorite thing about the systems, other than the games, but we'll get there in a little bit. I enjoy the disc size, you know, the 3-inch disc and the rugged case. It reminds me of myself, like my dick in rugged exterior. Yeah. I love all the party games for the system. I mean, as long as you have 3 friends that come over, the system is ideal. I don't think they tried to duplicate that with the Wii, but, and I guess in some ways they did it, but I think the GameCube did it a lot better. Maybe because the quality of titles were there and you didn't have the stupid motion controls to go along with it. Some of my favorite games for the system are by far the Mario parties. Countless hours with the roommates playing that. Double Dash, like I mentioned before, is probably my favorite game of all time. And we used to have a tournament every night at our old house. I was in a band. We had a band house, so every night at the end, we'd be all drunk and we'd fire up Mario Kart Double Dash for a 16 race championship, which was a lot of fun. Mario Strikers is a near perfect 4-player game as well. Battalion Wars. If you have no friends, Battalion Wars is a lot of fun. Real-time strategy. Wind Waker, that goes without saying. But there's a ton of them. I'm not going to break each game down in the catalog, but those are some of my favorites. ZakPak, thank you for having me, your old buddy Dan, on your channel. That's what I think about the GameCube. You should leave that part in about my dick being 3 inches. That's where it's awkward.
Thank you guys so much for doing these videos for me. It really means a lot, and it was definitely cool to hear you guys' opinion on the GameCube and the games it had to offer. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you to everyone who did a video for me, and it was great having you on. Hopefully I can do more collabs in the future with you guys, and we'll work out videos to do in the future to make it all fun and stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.